The forgotten wing of the imperial palace smelled like dust and defeat. Lily Redfield pushed her cleaning cart down the dark hallway, her footsteps echoing against marble walls that nobody bothered to polish anymore. This was where the Drasmary put the things they wanted to forget: broken statues, empty rooms, princes who could not fly. She stopped outside the largest door at the end of the corridor. The other human servants had warned her about this room, about the creature inside. They said he threw things, that he screamed at anyone who entered, that he wanted to be left alone to rot in his misery. Lily knocked anyway. No answer came. She waited a full minute, then pushed the door open. The room beyond was a disaster. Furniture lay smashed against the walls. Bottles were scattered across the floor. Heavy curtains blocked every window, leaving only thin strips of light cutting through the darkness. And in the center of it all, sprawled across a platform meant for a much happier life, was Prince Ryan. He was massive. Even lying down, his scaled body took up half the room. His wings, once proud and powerful according to the palace stories, hung broken and twisted against his sides. His legs were bent at angles that made Lily's stomach twist. But his eyes were the worst part. They were open, staring at nothing, empty of everything except pain. "Get out," he said. His voice was rough, like gravel scraping across stone. Lily set down her cart and pulled out a broom. "I am here to clean." "I said get out." Ryan's tail twitched, knocking over another bottle. "I do not need a maid. I do not need anything." "The room needs cleaning," Lily said simply. She started sweeping broken glass into a pile, "whether you need it or not." Ryan lifted his head slightly. His eyes focused on her for the first time. She was so small compared to him. Humans were tiny things, barely reaching the chest of a full-grown Drasmary. This one had brown hair pulled back in a simple tie and wore the plain gray uniform of palace servants. She looked fragile, breakable. "You are new," he said. "I arrived 3 weeks ago," Lily kept sweeping, "from Earth." "Earth?" Ryan made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The deathworld. They send me a creature from a deathworld to clean my prison." Lily paused and looked at him directly. "This is not a prison. The door was unlocked." "Is that supposed to matter?" Ryan's voice rose. "I cannot leave this room. I cannot walk. I cannot fly. My own father has not visited me in 6 months. My brothers pretend I do not exist. So yes, human, this is a prison. The worst kind. One where the walls are inside me." Lily nodded slowly. She did not look away from his eyes. "Then I will clean it anyway. Even prisons deserve to be clean." She went back to work. Ryan watched her with growing irritation. She moved around his massive form without fear, picking up debris, wiping down surfaces, opening one curtain to let in actual sunlight. The brightness made him flinch. "Stop that," he snapped. "Close it." "You need light," Lily said. "Darkness makes everything worse." "What would you know about it?" Ryan's tail slammed against the floor. "You are a human, a servant. You know nothing about what I have lost." Lily stopped working. She turned to face him fully, and for a moment something flickered across her face. Something old and tired and sad. "I know that 3 years ago I was working 3 jobs on Earth to feed my brother and sister after our parents died in a factory collapse. I know that I slept 4 hours a night and ate 1 meal a day so they could have 2. I know that when humanity joined the galactic community, I took this job off-world even though it meant leaving them behind. Because the money I send home is the only reason they can go to school instead of the factories." She picked up her broom again. "So do not tell me I know nothing about loss, Prince Ryan. I know exactly what it costs to keep going when everything inside you wants to stop." Ryan stared at her. No one had spoken to him like that in 3 years. No one had dared. The Drasmary feared him, pitied him, or ignored him. But this human looked at him like he was just another person with problems. Not a fallen prince, not a broken warrior, just someone who was hurting. "Why are you here?" he asked quietly. The other servants refused this wing. They requested transfers. I did not refuse. Lily gathered the broken glass into a bag. Someone needs to do this job. It might as well be me. You are not afraid of me. Should I be? Ryan considered this. 3 years ago he would have said yes. He had been a warrior, a leader, a prince who commanded respect and fear in equal measure. But now he was just a broken thing taking up space in a forgotten room. No, he admitted. You should not be afraid. I cannot even stand. What threat could I possibly be? Lily finished sweeping and moved to the windows, opening another curtain. More light flooded in. Ryan wanted to protest, but something stopped him. The light felt warm against his scales. He had forgotten what warmth felt like. I will come back tomorrow, Lily said, pushing her cart toward the door, to continue cleaning. Do not bother, Ryan said. I will just destroy it again. Lily paused at the door and looked back at him. Then I will clean it again. Why? She smiled, and it was such a small thing, but it hit him like a physical blow. Because no one had smiled at him in 3 years. No one had looked at him with anything except disgust or pity. Because everyone deserves to be seen, she said, even princes who think they are invisible. Then she left, and Ryan was alone again in his room. But something had changed. The sunlight still streamed through the windows she had opened. The floor was clear of broken glass, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, he did not immediately reach for a bottle to throw. He laid his head back down and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow she would return. He told himself he would make her leave. He told himself he did not need her help or her pity or her strange human determination. But deep down, in a part of himself he thought had died 3 years ago, something very small began to wake up. Something that felt almost like hope. Lily returned the next day just as she had promised, and the day after that, and the day after that. Each time, Ryan tried to drive her away with harsh words and bitter silence. Each time, she simply cleaned and talked to him like he was worth talking to. She asked him questions about his life before the accident, about flying, about battle, about what it felt like to soar through Drasmir's twin-sun sky. At first he refused to answer, but slowly, over days that turned into weeks, his walls began to crack. It was freedom, he said one afternoon, watching her dust a shelf he had not looked at in years. Flying, you cannot understand unless you have done it. The wind against your wings, the world spreading out below you like a map, nothing holding you back, nothing tying you down. Lily paused in her work. I have never flown, but I have climbed mountains on Earth, high enough that the air gets thin and every breath burns your lungs, high enough that one wrong step means falling to your death. But when you reach the top and look out at everything below, you feel like you could touch the sky. Ryan turned his head to look at her. That is not the same thing. No, Lily agreed. But maybe it is close. Maybe humans climb because we cannot fly. We reach for the sky in the only way we know how. He thought about that for a long time after she left. The next week, Lily brought something new. A data pad filled with files and images. She sat down near his platform, close enough to show him the screen but far enough to respect his space. What is that? Ryan asked. Physical therapy techniques, Lily said. From Earth. Humans get injured too. Soldiers, athletes, workers. Sometimes they lose the ability to walk. These are exercises that help them recover. Ryan's tail twitched. I have seen the best doctors in the Empire. They all said the same thing. The damage to my spine is permanent. I will never walk again. Maybe, Lily said, but maybe not. Human doctors used to say the same things, that certain injuries were permanent, that recovery was impossible, but we kept trying anyway. We built new techniques. We learned new methods. Sometimes we succeeded. And sometimes you failed, Ryan said bitterly. Yes, Lily did not look away from him. Sometimes we failed, but we tried anyway, because trying was better than giving up. Ryan stared at the data pad. The exercises looked painful. They would require effort, time, and hope. 3 things he had been running from for 3 years. "Why do you care?" he asked. "You are a servant, I am nothing to you. Why waste your time on this?" Lily set the data pad down between them. "On Earth, there is a saying. We are only as strong as those we lift up. You saved your entire unit when your ship was destroyed. You stayed behind to make sure they escaped. That is what the other servants told me. You sacrificed yourself so others could live." "And look where it got me," Ryan said. "It got you here, alive, breathing, still able to make choices." Lily stood up and picked up her cleaning supplies. "The question is what you will choose to do with that." She left the data pad behind when she departed. Ryan stared at it for hours. His pride screamed at him to ignore it, to throw it across the room like he had thrown everything else. But something else, something deeper, whispered that maybe she was right. Maybe trying was better than drowning in darkness. The next day, when Lily arrived, she found him attempting one of the exercises. He had barely managed to lift his tail a few inches before the pain forced him to stop. Sweat covered his scales and his breathing was ragged. Lily did not make a big deal of it. She simply set down her cart, walked over and said, "Good. Now let's try it again, together this time." They worked for 20 minutes. Ryan managed 3 more attempts before his body gave out completely. Each one felt like fire racing through his spine. Each one made him want to scream. But Lily was there, counting for him, encouraging him, refusing to let him quit. When they finished, Ryan collapsed back onto his platform, exhausted. "This is pointless," he gasped. "Moving my tail a few inches means nothing." "It means everything," Lily said quietly. 3 weeks ago you did not move at all. Today you moved. Tomorrow maybe you will move a little more. That is how humans survive, Prince Ryan. Not through big victories, through small ones, day after day after day. Over the following weeks the routine continued. Lily would arrive. They would work through exercises. Ryan would push his body to its limits and beyond. The pain was constant and brutal, but so was Lily's presence. She told him stories while they worked. Stories about Earth, about mountains that had to be climbed and oceans that had to be crossed, about humans who refused to quit even when every logical reason said they should. "We are not the strongest species," she said one day, helping him stretch his damaged wing. "We are not the fastest or the smartest. Other species have better technology, longer lives, stronger bodies, but we have something else. We have spite." Ryan made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Spite." "Spite," Lily confirmed. "The universe tells us we cannot do something and we do it anyway just to prove it wrong. We were told we could not survive our own planet. We did. We were told we could not reach space. We did. We were told we did not belong in the galactic community. And here we are." She looked at him directly. "So when the universe tells you that you will never walk again, what are you going to do?" Ryan met her eyes. For the first time in 3 years, something burned in his chest, something hot and fierce and alive. "I am going to prove it wrong." Lily smiled. "Good." 2 months after Lily first entered his room, Ryan managed to move his entire tail. Not just a twitch, not just a few inches, the whole thing from base to tip. When it happened, Lily was adjusting the position of his platform. She heard him gasp and turned to see his tail lifting off the ground, curling slightly in the air, holding steady for 3 full seconds before dropping back down. Ryan stared at his own tail like it belonged to someone else. His eyes were wide. His breathing came fast and shallow. And then, to his absolute horror, tears started running down his scaled face. "I moved," he whispered. "I actually moved." Lily walked over and placed her small hand on his massive shoulder. Tears ran down her face, too. "You did. You really did." They stayed like that for a long time. A broken prince and a human maid, crying together in a forgotten room. celebrating a victory that no one else would understand or care about. But they cared, and that was enough. The announcement came on a cold morning when frost covered the palace windows. Emperor Dravik had declared the proving of heirs. Every royal child would compete in trials of combat and skill. The winners would be named as potential successors to the throne. Lily learned about it from the other servants in the kitchen. They whispered excitedly about which prince would win, about the glory and honor of the trials, about the grand ceremony that would take place in the central arena where thousands would watch. No one mentioned Ryan. He was not invited. He was not even considered. When Lily brought the news to his room, she found him staring at the wall. He had been making progress. His tail moved freely now. He could shift his weight and turn his body, but his legs remained useless. His wings still hung broken. "They are holding the proving without me," he said quietly, "as if I do not exist." Lily set down a tray of food she had brought. "What did you expect?" Ryan's head snapped toward her. Sympathy, perhaps, understanding. "I understand perfectly," Lily said, sitting down on the floor near his platform. "Your family has written you off. They see you as broken, useless, not worth their time or attention. You are not helping." "I am not trying to help. I am trying to tell you the truth." Lily looked at him steadily. "You can either accept what they think of you or you can change it." Ryan laughed bitterly. "Change it? Look at me, Lily. I cannot walk. I cannot fly. How am I supposed to compete in trials designed for warriors?" "The same way humans compete with species twice our size and 10 times our strength," Lily said. "We adapt. We use tools. We think differently." She pulled out her data pad again. This time it showed schematics, designs, engineering plans. "I have been talking to the human engineers who work in the lower maintenance levels. They think they can build something to help you." Ryan looked at the designs. They showed a framework of lightweight metal and synthetic fibers, support struts that would attach to his legs, servos that would respond to nerve signals. "You want me to wear a machine, to walk like some kind of puppet?" "I want you to walk," Lily said simply. "Does it matter how?" "Yes," Ryan's voice rose. "It matters. The Drasmari value strength, natural ability. Using tools is seen as weakness. If I appear at the proving wearing that thing, I will be mocked, humiliated." Lily stood up. Her face was calm, but her eyes were fierce. "Let me tell you something about humans, Prince Ryan. We are weak, physically weak. We cannot breathe underwater like the Aquari. We cannot see in the dark like the Nithine. We cannot fly like your people. Our claws are dull. Our teeth are flat. Our skin tears easily. By every measure that matters in this galaxy, we should have died out on our homeworld." She stepped closer. "But we did not die. Do you know why? Because we made tools. We built fire to stay warm. We created weapons to hunt. We designed shelters to protect ourselves. We took our weakness and turned it into strength through adaptation. And when other species look down on us for that, we smile and keep building better tools." Ryan stared at her. He had never heard her speak with such passion. "You think I should embrace being weak?" "I think you should embrace being smart," Lily said. "Strength is not about how much you can lift or how high you can fly. Strength is about surviving when everything tells you to give up. Strength is about adapting when your situation changes. Strength is about standing up even when you need help to do it." She tapped the data pad. "This is not weakness. This is evolution. And if your people cannot see that, then maybe it is time to teach them." Ryan was quiet for a long time. Everything in his culture screamed that she was wrong, that using tools was cheating, that real warriors succeeded through natural ability alone. But another part of him, the part that had been growing stronger since Lily first walked into his room, whispered something different. What was more important, his pride or his life? "How long would it take to build?" he asked. Lily's face lit up. 2 months, maybe less if we work fast." "The proving is in 3 months," Ryan said slowly. "If we do this, if I actually try to compete, everyone will know. My brothers, my father, the entire empire. And if I fail, I will be more than forgotten. I will be a joke, a cautionary tale about foolish pride. And if you succeed, Lily asked. Ryan thought about that, about standing again, about looking his brothers in the eye, about showing his father that being broken did not mean being worthless. Then maybe I prove that adaptation is not surrender. Lily smiled. Then we start today. The work began immediately. Lily brought the human engineers to his room in secret. They took measurements. They calculated weight distributions and stress points. They designed a framework that would support his legs without restricting his movement. Ryan watched them work with growing amazement. These humans were so small, so fragile-looking, but they moved with confidence and precision. They solved problems he would have attacked with brute force by using clever angles and efficient designs. "Your people are strange," he said to Lily one evening after the engineers had left. Strange how? Lily was helping him through his evening exercises. "You do not rely on yourselves alone. You work together. You build things. You share knowledge." Ryan struggled to put his thoughts into words. The Drasmari believe that individual strength is what matters, but your people seem to believe that cooperation is strength. Lily nodded. "A single human is weak, but humans together, we can move mountains. We just do it one stone at a time." The supports were ready 2 weeks ahead of schedule. They looked nothing like Ryan had imagined. Instead of bulky metal cages, they were sleek and elegant. The engineers had studied Drasmari anatomy and designed them to work with his body rather than against it. When they first attached the framework to his legs, Ryan felt nothing. Then Lily activated the neural interface. Suddenly, signals flowed from his damaged nerves into the machine. The supports twitched. Servos hummed to life. And for the first time in 3 years, when Ryan tried to move his leg, something happened. His right leg lifted an inch off the platform. The humans cheered. Lily covered her mouth with both hands. Ryan stared at his own leg like it was a miracle. "Again," he said, "I want to try again." They worked through the night. Ryan fell dozens of times. The supports malfunctioned. The servos overheated. His muscles, unused for so long, screamed in protest. But slowly, painfully, he learned. By dawn he was standing. His legs shook. The supports creaked under his weight, but he was vertical, he was upright, he was standing. Lily stood in front of him, looking up at his face. She was crying again. "You are standing." Ryan looked down at her. From this height she looked even smaller, but at the same time she seemed like the largest person he had ever known. "I am standing," he agreed. His voice shook. "Because you believed I could." Over the following weeks, standing became walking. Walking became moving. Ryan practiced every day until his legs burned and his mind went numb with exhaustion. Lily was always there, helping him up when he fell, adjusting the supports when they failed, refusing to let him quit. Then Prince Torvin discovered them. Torvin stood in the doorway of Ryan's room with 3 of his attendants behind him. He was everything Ryan used to be. Tall and powerful, wings spread wide in a display of dominance, scales gleaming with health and strength. He looked at his younger brother with obvious disgust. "So the rumors are true," Torvin said. "You have been playing with human toys." Ryan stood his ground. The supports on his legs hummed quietly. He had been walking across the room when his brother entered, and he refused to sit down now. "I have been training." "Training?" Torvin laughed. It was a cold sound. "You are wearing a machine like a lesser species. That is not training, that is pathetic." Lily stepped forward. She barely reached Torvin's chest, but she looked up at him without fear. "Prince Ryan is working to overcome his injuries. There is nothing pathetic about that." Torvin glanced down at her like she was an insect. "A human servant speaks. How delightful. Tell me, little thing, do you actually believe these supports make him whole? Do you think they erase the fact that he is broken?" "I think they help him stand," Lily said evenly, "which is more than you have done." The room went silent. Torven's attendants gasped. No one spoke to a prince like that, especially not a human, especially not a servant. Torven's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You forget your place," he said softly. "No," Ryan's voice cut through the tension. He took a step forward, his supports whirring. "She knows exactly where she stands, right here, helping me, while you and Father and everyone else pretended I did not exist." Torven turned his attention back to his brother. "We left you alone out of mercy, so you would not have to see what you lost, so you would not have to face the fact that you are no longer worthy of the name Drasmary." "Worthy?" Ryan took another step. His legs shook but held. "I saved my entire unit. I stayed behind to make sure they escaped. What have you done lately besides stand around looking impressive?" "I have prepared for the proving," Torven said. "I have trained in combat. I have studied strategy. I have done what is expected of a prince, while you have hidden in this room playing with machines and making friends with servants." He moved closer, using his height to intimidate. "Father knows you are walking again. He thinks it is amusing. A pathetic attempt to reclaim dignity you lost years ago. He has decided to let you enter the proving. Do you know why?" Ryan said nothing. "To make an example of you," Torven continued. "To show the entire empire what happens when you try to rise above your station after falling so far. You will enter the trials wearing your human crutches. You will fail, and everyone will see that some things cannot be fixed." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "I almost hope you survive the first trial. It will make your ultimate failure so much more satisfying to watch." When he was gone, Ryan stood trembling, not from fear, from rage, pure, burning rage that he had not felt since before the accident. "He wants me to fail." "Of course he does," Lily said quietly. "You scare him." Ryan looked at her in surprise. "I scare him. Look at me, look at him. How could I possibly be a threat?" "Because you are doing something he could never do." Lily walked over and checked his supports, making small adjustments. "You are surviving impossible circumstances. You are adapting. You are changing. And change terrifies people who think they have everything figured out." She looked up at him. "Your brother has been training his whole life to be strong. But what happens if the galaxy decides strength is not enough? What happens if adaptation becomes more valuable than raw power? Then suddenly, you are the model and he is obsolete." Ryan had never thought of it that way. "You really believe I can win?" "I believe you can compete," Lily said. "Winning is not the point. The point is showing up. The point is trying. The point is proving that being broken does not mean being finished." Over the next month, they intensified training. Lily researched the proving trials from past years. She learned that the first test was always a maze filled with combat drones. Speed and strength were usually enough to pass, but Ryan had neither. "Then we use something else," Lily said. She showed him videos of humans navigating obstacle courses, of soldiers using tactics instead of force, of small creatures surviving by being clever instead of strong. "The drones follow specific programming. They react to movement and sound. If we can predict their patterns, we can avoid them." Ryan practiced moving silently. His supports were designed for strength, not stealth, so Lily and the engineers modified them. They added dampeners to quiet the servos. They adjusted his gait to reduce vibration. They turned him into something the drones would not expect. The second trial was combat, one-on-one against another competitor. This worried Lily the most. Ryan was walking, but fighting was different. Fighting required speed, agility, and power that his supports could not fully provide. "Then we fight smart," Ryan said. He had been thinking about this constantly. "Drasmary combat is all about overwhelming force. Hit hard, hit fast, dominate, but humans fight differently, right?" Lily nodded. "We fight dirty, we use leverage, we target weak points, we make our opponent's strength work against them." They practiced this too. Ryan learned to use his tail as a weapon, learned to turn his damaged wings into shields, learned to anticipate attacks and redirect them rather than block them directly. It was nothing like the combat he had trained for as a young prince. It was messier, less honorable, more human. The third trial was the one that kept Ryan awake at night, a flight race through the storm canyons. He had not flown since the accident. His wings were twisted and scarred. Even with supports, even with modifications, flying seemed impossible. "We will find a way," Lily promised, but even she sounded uncertain. 3 days before the proving, Emperor Dravik visited Ryan's room. It was the first time in 3 years. He stood in the doorway, filling it with his massive presence, and looked at his son with unreadable eyes. "You actually intend to compete," he said. It was not a question. Ryan stood using his supports. He met his father's gaze without flinching. "I do." "Why?" It was such a simple question, but the answer was complicated, because he was angry, because he was tired of being forgotten, because Lily had shown him that giving up was worse than failing, because he needed to prove something to himself. "Because I am still your son," Ryan said finally, "and I am still Drasmary, and that means I do not surrender, even when I should." Emperor Dravik was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You will fail, you know this." "Maybe," Ryan agreed, "but I will fail standing up." Something flickered across his father's face. Respect, pity, regret. It was gone too fast to tell. "Then I will watch you fail, as will the entire empire." He left without another word. Lily found Ryan later, sitting by the window and looking out at the sky, having second thoughts. "Constantly," Ryan admitted, "but I am going anyway." She sat down beside him. Her small hand found his massive clawed one. "Good, because humans have a saying, it is not about how hard you hit, it is about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." Ryan looked down at her. This tiny creature who had walked into his darkness and refused to leave, who had carried him when he could not carry himself, who had believed in him when he had stopped believing in anything. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything." Lily smiled. "Thank me after the proving, when we celebrate together." "And if I lose?" "Then we celebrate anyway," she said, "because you tried, and trying is always worth celebrating." The arena was packed with thousands of Drasmary citizens. They filled the stands in waves of color and sound, all waiting to see which prince would prove themselves worthy. Lily stood in the servants' section, pressed between other palace workers who whispered excitedly about the trials. None of them expected Ryan to survive the first challenge. Down in the preparation area, Ryan checked his supports one final time. The servos were calibrated perfectly. The neural interface responded smoothly to his thoughts. Everything was as ready as it would ever be. He was not. The first trial began with a roar from the crowd. 5 princes entered the maze simultaneously from different points. The structure was massive, filled with automated combat drones programmed to attack anything that moved. The goal was simple: reach the center before being eliminated. Torvin entered his section with confidence. He smashed through the first wave of drones with raw power, his claws tearing through metal and circuits. The crowd cheered his name. He was everything a Drasmary prince should be. Ryan entered his section quietly. His supports hummed as he moved deeper into the maze. The first drone appeared, sensors sweeping the corridor. Ryan pressed himself against the wall and went completely still. The dampeners in his supports cut all vibration. The drone scanned past him and moved on. He continued like this, avoiding rather than fighting, using shadows and silence, predicting patrol patterns and slipping through gaps. It was not glorious, it was not impressive, but it worked. Halfway through, a drone spotted him, its weapons charged, target locked. Ryan could not outrun it, could not overpower it. So he grabbed a piece of debris from the wall and threw it down a side corridor. The drone's programming shifted. New target acquired. It chased the sound while Ryan went the opposite direction. He reached the center third, behind Torven and another brother named Krell, but ahead of the other two competitors. The crowd was confused. They had expected him to fail immediately. His survival was an anomaly, an irritation, something that should not be happening. The second trial was announced. Single combat. Brackets were drawn randomly. Ryan's first opponent was a younger competitor named Soren. Young, fast, aggressive. He looked at Ryan's supports and smiled like he had already won. The fight began in a raised arena surrounded by energy barriers. Soren attacked immediately, wings spread, claws extended, going for a quick finish. Ryan stepped aside at the last possible moment. Soren's momentum carried him past. Ryan's tail whipped around and caught the younger prince's legs, sending him sprawling. The crowd gasped. That should not have worked. Soren got up, angry now. He came again, faster this time. Ryan used his damaged wings as a shield, absorbing the impact, then grabbed Soren's arm and used the competitor's own strength to throw him into the barrier. Electricity crackled. Soren collapsed. The arena went silent. Then slowly, confused applause began. Ryan advanced to the next round. His supports had taken damage in the fight. Warning lights blinked on the interface. Lily appeared in the recovery area between matches. The human engineers were with her, tools in hand. "The servos on your left leg are failing," one engineer said, already pulling open access panels. "We can patch it, but it will not hold through another fight." "Make it hold long enough," Ryan said. His entire body ached. The supports put stress on muscles that had not worked properly in years, but he could not stop now. Lily worked on his right side while the engineers fixed the left. She did not say anything. She did not need to. Her presence was enough. It reminded him why he was doing this. The next opponent was Torven. They faced each other across the arena, brothers who had not spoken in years. Torven looked at Ryan's damaged supports and laughed. "You actually made it this far. I'm almost impressed. Almost." "Save it for the fight," Ryan said. The barrier activated. Torven launched himself forward with overwhelming speed. He was not playing. He was not testing. He was going for complete domination. His claws struck Ryan's shoulder, tearing through scales. His tail slammed into Ryan's midsection, knocking the air from his lungs. Ryan went down hard. The supports on his left leg sparked and died. Torven stood over him, victorious. "This is where you stay, on the ground, where you belong." He turned to acknowledge the crowd's approval, and that was his mistake. Ryan's tail swept Torven's legs. As his brother fell, Ryan grabbed him with both claws and rolled, using every technique Lily had taught him about leverage and momentum. They crashed into the barrier together. Electricity coursed through both of them, but Ryan's supports were already damaged. He had less to lose. When they separated, Torven struggled to stand. His movements were jerky, uncoordinated. The electrical shock had disrupted his nervous system. Ryan stood on one working leg and one dead support, swaying but upright. "I belong standing up," Ryan said. Then he tackled his brother one more time. They hit the barrier again. More electricity, more pain, but this time only Torven fell unconscious. The crowd erupted. This was not supposed to happen. The broken prince was not supposed to win, but he had. Against all logic and expectation, he had. Lily cried in the stands. The engineers cheered. And Ryan stood alone in the center of the arena, half his supports dead, blood running down his scales, breathing hard but still vertical. The final trial was announced. The flight raced through storm canyons. Every competitor had to launch from the arena platform and navigate through dangerous weather to reach a marker 0.5 miles away. It was designed to test speed, agility, and aerial combat skills. Ryan looked at his broken supports, at his twisted wings, at the massive gap between himself and the edge of the platform where he would need to jump and catch air. This was impossible. Everyone knew it. Even Lily knew it. But then she appeared again, running onto the arena floor with the engineers behind her. They carried something large covered in fabric. Guards moved to stop them, but Emperor Dravik raised a hand. He wanted to see what would happen. Lily pulled away the fabric. Underneath was a harness system attached to wing supports, lightweight metal frames that would attach to Ryan's damaged wings and distribute the load. It was untested, completely experimental, and his only chance. "We built it in secret," Lily said, breathing hard from running. "It might work, or it might fail completely and you will fall to your death." Ryan looked at the harness, at the expectant crowd, at his father watching from the Emperor's box, at Lily standing small and determined in front of him. "Help me put it on." The engineers worked fast. They attached the harness to his wings and secured the support frames. The system connected to his remaining leg supports, creating an integrated network. When they activated it, Ryan felt his wings respond for the first time in 3 years. Not perfectly, not like before, but they moved. The other competitors launched. They shot into the air with grace and power, disappearing into the storm clouds ahead. Ryan walked to the platform edge. Wind whipped around him. Rain started falling. Lightning cracked across the sky. Lily stood behind him. "You do not have to do this." "Yes," Ryan said, "I really do." He jumped. For one terrible moment he fell. The harness strained. The supports screamed. His damaged wings caught air and nearly tore from the frames. Then the system synchronized. The harness distributed weight. The supports provided stability. And Ryan was flying. It was nothing like before. He was slow and clumsy. Each wing beat sent pain through his entire body. The harness creaked and threatened to fail. But he was airborne. After 3 years of being grounded, he was touching the sky again. The storm hit hard. Wind shears threw him sideways. Rain blinded him. Lightning struck close enough to make his scales stand on end. Other competitors were knocked from the sky, forced to land or crash, but Ryan kept going. The harness failed halfway through the canyon. A sudden wind shear hit Ryan from the side. The right wing support snapped. Metal screamed. The frame twisted. Ryan spun out of control, falling toward the jagged rocks below. He had seconds to react. His training with Lily kicked in. Human training, about adaptation, about using what you have instead of mourning what you lost. He stopped trying to fly with both wings. Instead, he used his good left wing and his tail like a rudder, not flying, gliding, barely controlled, but enough to avoid the rocks. He was losing altitude fast. The marker point was still 3 miles ahead. At this rate, he would crash long before reaching it. Then he saw something that changed everything. The spectator stands. They had been built along the canyon edge so citizens could watch the race. But the storm was worse than predicted. A massive lightning strike hit the canyon wall above the stands. Rock began to fall, tons of it, heading straight toward hundreds of Drasmari, toward the servants' section where Lily was watching. Ryan did not think, he dove. His damaged wings screamed in protest. His remaining supports overloaded. The harness tore further, but he dropped like a stone toward the spectator stands. He hit the falling rocks with his full body weight, using his armored back as a shield. Debris smashed against his scales. Boulders the size of hover cars cracked against his spine, but he spread his wings wide and caught the worst of the collapse. Below him, Drasmari scattered. Servants ran for cover, and Lily stood frozen, looking up at the massive shape of Ryan blocking the sky and the death falling from it. The impact drove Ryan into the ground. His supports shattered completely. The harness tore away. His wings folded wrong, but everyone in the stands survived, every single one, because he had put himself between them and harm. Silence fell over the arena, then chaos. Medical teams rushed forward. Engineers ran to help, and Lily pushed through the crowd, running toward Ryan's fallen form. He was conscious but barely. Blood ran from dozens of wounds. His legs were bent at wrong angles again. The progress of months destroyed in seconds, but he was smiling. "Did everyone make it?" he whispered as Lily reached him. "Yes," tears ran down her face. "Everyone is safe. You saved them. You saved all of them." "Good." Ryan's eyes started to close. "That is good." "Stay awake," Lily begged. "Please stay with me." "I am tired," Ryan said. "So tired, but I flew, Lily. Did you see? I actually flew." "I saw," she said, cradling his massive head in her small arms. "You were beautiful." The medical teams arrived. They stabilized him enough to move. As they carried him away on a hover platform, Emperor Dravik appeared. He looked at his son, at the destroyed supports, at the servants who were alive because of Ryan's sacrifice, at Lily walking beside the platform, refusing to leave. For the first time in 3 years, the Emperor's face showed something other than disappointment. 3 days later, Ryan woke in the medical wing. Every part of his body hurt. Doctors had told him the truth while he was sedated. The damage was permanent this time. Even human supports could not help. He would never walk again, never fly again. The trials had been his last chance, and he had thrown it away to save others. He should have felt despair, but instead he felt peace. Lily was there when he opened his eyes. She had barely left his side. "Welcome back." "I lost," Ryan said. His voice was rough. "I did not finish the race. I did not win the proving." "No," Lily agreed. "You did something better. You chose people over glory. You chose protecting others over proving yourself. That is more important than any trial." The door opened. Emperor Dravik entered alone. He walked to Ryan's bedside and looked down at his son. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the Emperor did something Ryan had never seen. He lowered himself to one knee, bringing his eyes level with Ryan's. "I was wrong," Dravik said quietly. "I thought strength was about power, about domination, about never showing weakness. But you showed me something different. You showed me that real strength is about protecting those weaker than yourself, about adapting when circumstances change, about standing up even when it costs you everything." He placed one massive claw on Ryan's shoulder. "You did not win the proving, but you proved something far more valuable. You proved that being broken does not mean being worthless, and you did it in front of the entire empire." "What happens now?" Ryan asked. "Now you help me change things," the Emperor said. "I am creating a new position, protector of the lesser castes, someone to advocate for those the Drasmari have traditionally overlooked. The injured, the weak, the servants and workers who keep our empire running but receive no recognition. I want you to fill that role." Ryan looked at Lily. She smiled and nodded. "With Lily as my advisor?" he asked. "With Lily as your partner," the Emperor corrected. "She will have full authority to implement changes, to challenge traditions, to teach us what she has taught you." Lily's eyes went wide. "Your Majesty, I am just a servant." "You are the person who carried my son when I abandoned him," Dravik said, looking at her directly. "You are the person who believed in him when no one else did. You are the person who showed him that adaptation is not weakness. That makes you exactly who we need." Over the following months, things changed in the Empire. Slowly at first, then faster. Ryan established an office in the palace where any citizen could bring concerns about unfair treatment or lack of accommodation for injuries and disabilities. Lily worked with human engineers to create support systems for other injured Drasmari. Together, they challenged traditions that valued strength over contribution. Not everyone approved. Some called it weakness. Some said it went against everything the Drasmari stood for. But others, especially those who had been cast aside like Ryan, saw it as hope, as proof that their lives still had value. A year after the proving, a young Drasmari soldier arrived at Ryan's office. He had been injured in battle. His wings were damaged. He could barely walk. He was terrified of being abandoned by his family and his empire. Ryan sat in his hover chair of human design. It was sleek and elegant, built by Lily and the engineers specifically for him. He no longer tried to walk. He had accepted this, but he was far from helpless. "You are not broken," Ryan told the young soldier. "You are not worthless, and you are not alone." Lily stood beside him, reviewing files on her data pad. She looked up and smiled at the soldier. "We are going to help you, and then you are going to help others. That is how we move forward, together, one step at a time." The soldier started crying. Relief and hope and fear all mixed together. Ryan understood completely. He had been there. He had felt all of that. But he had also learned that sometimes the hardest falls led to the most important discoveries. That evening, after the soldier left with a plan and support system in place, Lily and Ryan sat together in his office. Through the window, they could see Drasmir's twin suns setting over the palace. "Do you ever regret it?" Lily asked. "Giving up the race, losing your chance to compete for the throne?" Ryan thought about this, about flying one last time, about the moment he chose to dive instead of finish, about everything that had come after. No, the throne was never mine to win, but this, he gestured at the files on his desk, at the list of people waiting for help, at the changes they were making. This matters. This actually helps people. "You were always a protector," Lily said. "Even before the accident, you saved your unit. You save the spectators, you save people. That is who you are." "And you," Ryan looked at her, "you saved me, not from injury, from giving up. Why?" Lily was quiet for a moment. "Because I saw someone worth saving, someone who had forgotten his own value, someone who needed to be reminded that being broken does not mean being finished." She smiled. "And because I am human, we carry each other. That is what we do. When one person falls, we help them stand. When one person cannot go on, we go on for them, until they are ready to walk beside us again." Ryan reached out his claw. Lily placed her small hand in it. They sat like that as the sun set and the stars came out. A broken prince who learned to fly again, and a human maid who showed him how. Together they had changed an empire, not through strength, not through power, but through something far more valuable. Through hope, through adaptation, through the simple human belief that everyone deserves to be seen. And they were just getting started.